things immediately got better once the women established a leader, and they actually started getting stuff done in the last week. Also, for some reason, they chose this person, Beth, as a leader too, but as far as what we can see on the show, Lauren pretty much did all the work leading. So now we are at the end of the show. The men made it on the island for 6 weeks, and the women sort of made it on the island for 6 weeks. I did, however, find it funny that both groups went right to gender stereotypes. The men were primarily focused on hunting for food, while the women were primarily focused on gathering. At the end of the 6 weeks, each team showed off their camps to Bear Grylls. The men's camp was very utilitarian, while the women's camp was very decorated and made over. One more thing, the women slept communally, while the men slept individually. So this show turned out to be a real win for feminism on breaking gender stereotypes. By the way, there were more examples on them conforming to stereotypes than the ones I gave. Another win for feminism is that Ruth England called season 1 of the show sexist because only men were allowed on that season. She said it portrayed the notion that women needed to be helped to survive. Well, seeing that the women almost died twice throughout the 6 weeks and almost had their team member Fran die in the first week, I don't see how Ruth England's notion that average women can survive without men is proven. Still, the show went to great lengths at the end to make the women seem better than they were.
If I hadn't turned up today, and I turned up in 6 months, I bet these guys would be in pretty good shape. And I knew it. I knew the stereotype was wrong, you know? But I knew they could nail this.
Wow, the pandering is strong here. There is no way they would have made it 6 months. How about this? What if we just accepted that men and women have certain limitations and moved on with our lives? In one of the episodes, Vic has a dispute with one of the cameramen, Sam. Unlike Naked and Afraid, the cameramen have to participate in the game too. That being said, Sam's value to the group is very abstract because Sam is creative. The unfortunate truth is that generally, the majority of creative people don't produce anything useful. However, if you don't have any creative people, your society will falter to the ones that do. In this regard, there are 2 things that have to happen in a functioning group or a functioning person. 1, you have to repeat patterns and strategies that work, and 2, you have to discover new patterns and strategies that are more effective and less time-consuming than the old ones. So if the men's team wants to be effective, they need to do the daily chores, but they also need to be venturing out into the island to discover new territory. They need to be trying new tricks, they need to be inventing new technologies, and they need to learn how to scale their economy. This is where Sam, the useless daydreaming cameraman, comes in. Sam reportedly doesn't work hard unless he is really interested in the idea. That idea is a fishing net. The net was something they found amongst all the trash that washed up on shore. They found a lot of items that way. People saw the fishing net as a waste of time because it failed previously, but against everyone's wishes, Sam goes to work on the net in an attempt to catch more fish. He fails.
Now released from wood duty, Sam sets off to check his nets.
I'm feeling positive.
Despite the group's hostility, Sam's convinced his nets will work.
I refuse pessimism to seep in. Absolutely refuse it.
Optimism it is then.
Optimism it is.
Nothing.
Very predictable. It's a waste of energy, time, fuel, everything. Stop fanning around and start doing something worthwhile.
Vic gets mad about Sam's failure and treats him even worse than before. This is a big deal because Vic is one of the most valuable members on the team, especially when it comes to collecting food. However, Sam refuses to fall in line and continues to work on the fishing net despite the failure, and that makes Vic even more mad.
Vic?
Yo!
Do you trust me?
I would never trust a stranger.
Am I a stranger?
At first you were.
Okay.
It's taken me longer to get used to you than it has any other guys, because they sound a little bit like me. So unfortunately, I don't trust you.
Yeah. Interesting.
Vic is mad because he doesn't like politicians, and he says that Sam sounds like a politician rather than someone who is working class like he is. But there is one thing that's for certain, which is that creativity requires tons of trial and error and tons of failure. Failure is a part of the process of learning new things. The problem is that in survival, failure has harsh consequences. However, eventually everyone gets desperate because there's no food, and they run to help Sam with the nets. If you catch something, fishing nets require more than one person to pull them out of the ocean. And well, this time, Sam succeeds.
Yes! Nowhere!
There's a lot of whooping coming from those nets, people.
All I wanted was just a fish. One fish. How many fishes have we got?
20!
Vic is the most successful fisher in the group and has saved the day many times when people were hungry. At best, I believe Vic caught 6 fish in one day. In this case, Sam caught 21 fish in one day while expending way less energy and time than Vic would have used catching that many fish. Here is Vic being a good sport about it, admitting he was wrong, and letting Sam know that he has earned his respect.
Sam's determination's been amazing with them nets.
I'm really happy that you can see that.
Yes, I couldn't. I won't deny it, I couldn't see it at all. I just thought, well, you're a big city fanny. But the big city fanny's done good. Sam, farmer, my hat comes off to you, sir. Well done you for having the balls and the determination to fix them every time. Because that certainly weren't my cup of tea. At all.
So Vic learns the value of creativity, and this is why, although often annoying and seemingly useless, creative people are needed. If you can afford creativity through excess resources or time, it can be one of the most valuable components of your group or your society. I think it also shows why, no matter who you are, you need some creativity in your life. You don't have to be a full-on inventor, but if you want a lot of success, you can't just play the same game every single day. You have to spend time learning new skills and discovering new ways to market those skills. You also have to work hard, be willing to take risks, and accept that a ton of failure is a part of the process. If you don't do those things, don't complain about how everyone else is successful while you aren't. If your strategies don't work, you need to find new strategies. There's a second lesson in this episode that I think is valuable because a lot of people are looking for acceptance. If you watch the episode, you can see how Sam is on thin ice with most of the group, but then a few moments later, they are cheering his name. He got everyone to like him, and he did that by being useful. This is something that a lot of people are missing. If you want to have friends, if you want to have people like you, if you want to have people respect you, the primary way you earn that is by being productive and providing value to other people. If you don't provide value to anyone, people aren't going to like you. Well, maybe that's inaccurate. The only people who will like you are people who also don't provide any particular amount of value, so you'll have friends who are worthless if you have friends at all. If you want to change that, you need to actually produce something. You need to be useful. And with that sentiment, I think this video has gone on long enough.